Drowning dreams in alcoholic liquor, watching fiends buying hits, trying to die quicker. Robbing dealers with the 38. They hated seeing me coming, but that was nothing to my own self-hate. Chicks menstruate, niggas all gen self-mutilate. If that's not a holocaust, without a Hitler as a boss, then you must be lost. Drowning dreams in alcoholic liquor, watching fiends buying hits, trying to die quicker. Robbing dealers with the 38. They hated seeing me coming, but that was nothing to my own self-hate. Chicks menstruate, niggas all big. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, one half of the dynamic duo, this dysfunctional world. Today I have another anonymous guest on the line, and we're talking about a subject that hits home in at least all 50 states now. We're talking about the importance or unimportance of gangs. So, Miss Anonymous, please give me your viewpoint on the importance or unimportance of gangs.
So I guess my viewpoint is probably not going to be a popular viewpoint, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Okay.
Is I just don't see the need for them. Originally, when gangs were started, or some of the organizations were started, they were started to kind of help their communities and promote, like, policing their communities and promoting unity within the community and, like, security and protection. And I just feel like it's really gotten away from that. And it perpetuates a lot of stereotypical things in Black and brown communities. So that's why I feel like there's not necessarily a need for those things and those types of narratives in our community.
Okay, but when you be able to say the same thing about the police, they started off good and they do corrupt things and not uphold the citizens.
I think I also think they need to defund the police as well.
You can't defund gangs because the government keeps gangs in business. Like, that's who allows whatever to come into the country and be sold.
Correct.
And the gangs.
But I just think, go ahead.
And the gangs, like you said, they had more of a pivotal point, a good pivotal point in the beginning. They were to uphold some of the communities. But there's also the hidden truth behind that, which was, while some of them were uploading and protecting the community, some of them were doing illegal and bad stuff for the Black Panthers because the Black Panthers couldn't take that social hit like that. Did you know that?
I did.
Okay. So, with anything, if you have anything that's positive one day and it gets bored or it gets docile, you got bad seeds in everything. You know, not all the police are bad, not every gang member is bad, but for a lot of Black and brown youth, gangs are brothers, are uncles, are, you know what I'm saying, dads, are a family that accepts you for you, more or less. Like, they don't really, as long as you follow the organization's rules and basic fundamentals, they accept you crippled, crazy, or dumb. You know, they like the military, except you do go to war. Yeah, they like the military. You go to war. You just don't reap all the benefits that the military does.
I just think if they're going to be pivotal parts of the community, they need to really work more on policing themselves and kind of what that image looks like and what they're putting into the community. Don't get me wrong, I think us as people of color, we can sometimes be our own worst enemies in a lot of regards.
We are. But
we're our own worst enemies in a lot of regards, but we don't need that, like, perpetuation of, like, just negative images or things that aren't necessarily
well, that's the media's doing right there, because when gangs hand out turkeys or give out backpacks or do something for the community, it's overlooked and undershadowed. But the same way we, Black and brown, tear down our communities, Caucasians do the same thing in their neighborhoods too. It's just not a lot of them. And when
they do.
And, you know, like, yeah, gangs have the unfortunate stereotype of killing their own, but what would you call a mass shooting?
I mean, a mass shooting is killing your own, but it's also, I mean, mass shootings is just like anything. Bullets don't have no names on them.
Right. But most of the time, a mass shooting happens in an area predominantly full of the same type of people.
Well, it depends. I mean, what about when it's at a school?
Most of the children at the school that get hit are the same type of people.
Yes and no.
It doesn't happen in certain communities like that. Like, okay, for instance, in black and brown communities, when guns are fired, they were aiming at one specific person, and they just don't have aim. They've never been taught how to handle a firearm properly, and they shoot into the crowd. When mass shootings happen, these kids may have or may not have did anything to that shooter, but he's taking everybody out. Most of the time, the schools that these happen at be full of the same people. There might be a few of others in the school, but they're not always the ones that get shot. The majority of them be the same. And I mean, to be honest, Ku Klux Klan was a gang, police are a gang, militaries are gangs.
Oh yeah, the Ku Klux Klan is gang, and so is the police. It's just that they have different funding. We can definitely agree on that.
So that's why I say there's a good and bad to gangs, because I don't know the purpose of the Ku Klux Klan. I don't know why they were invented, but to be a judgment when they felt like things weren't punished to the extent that they felt the need to be, or just to scare people away. Like Bloods and Crips, Folks, Disciples, Vice Lords, Lion Kings, I might be missing some, Sureños and Norteños. Sureños and Norteños, those are all gangs too. And they have some negative connotation, but everybody in a gang is not a bad person.
No, everyone in the gang is not a bad person. I just think that I don't know. I just don't think they actively kind of work to combat some of the negative stuff that's out there. But I mean, I guess there's no real answer to that, is what we're saying.
Right, because you can have 10 dudes that follow one dude, and then you can have 4 to 5 other dudes that don't follow him, and they do their own thing. They're in the same set, maybe a block or two away from each other, and they do something totally different than what the main people were doing. But when you blame them, you blame the whole group of them. You don't blame just the individuals that did it. You know, we try to blame the whole police force, but in actuality, when they go to court, it be individual names. Well, with gangs, with Bloods and Crips, primarily, they use RICO law, or they use the gang injunction. Just by being affiliated with a gang, you can get locked up for that. Police, just by being affiliated, by being another police officer, won't get locked up for the same things that 4 officers did.
Which makes sense. I understand what you're saying there.
So, like, me living on the West Coast, at one point in time, gangs, they courted. They showed you the life. They showed you a glimpse of the good life. It's like they try to impress you. They try to recruit you. When Nip was coming up, you had to show interest in it. You had to choose what you wanted to do. If you wanted to bang or not bang, you had to be of a sound age to make a rational decision. When I got in, I wasn't at that sound age. I was around, so they jumped me in. Boom, I'm in. I say that to say this. Like I said, sometimes those be your role models. You know what I'm saying? Those be the people you see making money, or the people you see got a lot of respect in the neighborhood. And for some people, that means a lot. Having respect in the neighborhood means so much. A lot of police don't patrol their neighborhood. They patrol other neighborhoods that they don't like, the people in those neighborhoods. So to your point, or to your detriment of the point, gangs still help. They still protect. It's some that don't, but gangs still protect their territory. They just protect their territory from other gangs.
So you're saying that you feel like they protect their territories from other gangs. There's a lot of innocent people that can sometimes get caught in crosshairs of this protection, right?
This is true. This is true.
There are innocent people that get caught in the crosshairs of this protection. And I think that's the point at which, I don't know, like, it becomes, is it worth it? Is this the right thing to do? You know, it's different if you have people that are like, hey, this is a choice that I'm making. This ain't necessarily, I don't know, like maybe it's not necessarily the right choice for everyone. And that would kind of be the narrative, but you and I both know that's not always how that is kind of.
Well, I guess where I was going with my last point, because I just remembered a point that I was trying to make with that. Moving to the South, I realized people join gangs for different reasons. So like,
and they do.
Down South, I realized people join gangs because, say this block was red, and all the people you associate with wear blue, but you live over here and they beat you up every day and you don't want to get beat up no more, so you join a gang for protection. I very much doubt that people in California join gangs for protection, because they're centered around whole communities, and it's a bunch of people that live in the community that don't join the gang and still reap the protection from it. I don't know if you ever been.
I think everybody has their own reasons for joining, honestly.
True.
I think there's people that join for acceptance. I think there's people that join for all kinds of different things that are lacked. You know what I mean?
Right.
Things that maybe they lack at home. Things that they don't have at home. I think there's people that join for all kinds of reasons, to be truthful.
Okay.
And I think that's where, part of it is like you step up and you kind of like at home. A lot of that stuff starts at home, like acceptance and feeling like.
Yeah. Yeah. It does start from home. Dad locked up in prison because he gang banged. Your cousins coming up, your relatives coming up, they gang bang. It could be a part of life, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think for a lot of them, it becomes a way of life. So when you don't know nothing else,
but see,
you know what I mean?
I can't say that part, because even some of the biggest gangbangers went off and got into sports and stayed true to sports. And then when they got professional, when they made it to the league or whatever, they gang ties came back out. If that makes sense.
Right.
Some deal with it better than others. Some have thrown their whole lives away because of gang ties that came back up. But I say that to say...
we all have a choice.
Right. But I say that to say all gang members aren't bad still. You know what I'm saying? You got some that make it to the league and thrive. All gang members aren't bad.
Right. I just think anything that you stand on, or anything that you say you represent, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to, when you say you stand on something, or you say this is what you represent, or this is you, you have to be cognizant of that and cognizant of what that messaging is and what that imaging is.
Right.
And a lot of the things that are being put out into our communities, I think even the gang members can probably agree, are not the best. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, it's not that it's imaging. It's not what we want to say. It's a lot of stereotypes. It's women feeling like they need to clutch their purses. You know what I mean?
Right.
And all of that is not necessarily what, what gangs represent. It's not necessarily what they stand for. But
Right.
these are all things that have been attached to being in a gang or, affiliated with gang activity.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And for those of us that don't, it takes a step further and it's, hey, well, this is what your race or what your group of people, they join gangs, they got baby mamas on love. You know what I mean? Like all of that craziness doesn't necessarily make it true, but it's what we're perceived as. And so it's like if they're policing themselves and just when things are unjust or things are not right or it's not what it needs to be, they need to put a certain level of responsibility on them and on their members and their affiliates to kind of stand on doing the right thing, if it makes sense, internally. And I just think sometimes there's not a whole lot of check and balance there.
True. True. That's very true. Well, I think you made a very valid point. You're right. Checks and balances. We could say it, but if older people or even young enough people that's leading don't all believe in this checks and balance, then it's going to forever have individuals running rampant.
And I think that's where they get a bad connotation from. I don't necessarily think it's all of them, but I think there are some that run with these jacked up narratives, and that's how we get to where we are today and where we're having these conversations. Again, I don't know what that's like because I've never had a desire to join a gang. I've never felt like I needed that in my life. But for those that do, I'm not,
Right.
That's, for those they do, they do.
Right. It's not for everybody. Nothing in this world is for everybody. Not people, not colors, not rituals, not gangs, not beliefs, not... Everything is not for everybody. But I do appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation with me.
Yeah, of course. That's what we do, right?
That's what we do. So, with that being said, I'm going to let the audience know me and Anonymous had a great conversation. We both hit some good points. Leave it in the comments what you think and your opinion. And with that being said, she's Anonymous, and I'm your host, Dysfunctional's World. Have a good night. Peace.